Thank you so much, everyone, for coming back. I hope you enjoyed your lunch. I personally have been very much looking forward to this moment, and I'm going to try not to speak very much because I know I'm the least person here you want to hear from, and I know that you also have a lot of questions for Clarence and Karina. So let me just introduce them both. Karina LeBlanc, of course, former Olympian and the longest-serving player of the Canadian national team. Karina played for almost 18 years as the national team's goalkeeper, including 5 World Cups and 2 Olympic Games. She's also a UNICEF ambassador. So welcome to Karina and Clarence.
Hello, hello.
And Clarence Seedorf, 4-time winner of the UEFA Champions League, Dutch coach, football legend. In his 23-year career, Clarence played more than 1,000 domestic and international games, making him one of the most successful players in history. Amongst Clarence's many accolades, though, is his position as UEFA Global Ambassador for Diversity and Change. So, ladies first. So we'll start with Karina. And I know that you've been watching and listening all morning. And I'm wondering, first of all, what your reflections have been, what you've been hearing, because we've been talking a lot about a lot of things that directly affected you in your career.
I think for me, what stuck out is just the power of dropping a soccer ball anywhere in the world. I mean, I used to be the shyest kid ever. Nobody ever believes that. But you couldn't get me to speak. And then I finally found a common denominator. I moved to Canada when I was 8 from a small island in the Caribbean called Dominica. And once I started to play sport, you couldn't get me to be quiet. It was like all of a sudden I got confidence, I got invited to sleepovers, and my life changed. And people always thought I was crazy because I always said, you know, one day I want to go to the Olympics. And people were like, okay, there was no soccer in the Olympics. But I just had this big dream because, again, that's what sport does. And you know, I went on to go to the Olympics, but in traveling with UNICEF and playing for my country for 18 years, you see the power of dropping a soccer ball in different parts of the world. Whether it's in a country where a 14-year-old thinks their purpose is to have babies because you only know what you know, and they don't turn on the television and see women's soccer, but all of a sudden you go and you drop the soccer ball and their eyes light up. And all of a sudden they have hope and they're like, you know what, wow, like you play soccer? It's just the power of that, and it's the conversation here about equality and inclusion, and I think everybody here is on that page of there's a true power, and you can learn so much more than just kicking a ball. You learn so much about life, so I think that's what I've taken away so far.
Sure, and Clarence, you've been a strong advocate and spoken out very strongly, saying that diversity is strength, not weakness. I'm wondering if you can expand on that and explain to people here what you mean.
Yeah, well, I think that we have an audience that are thinking alike, right? It's a motivational day for everybody. I think many of them are on the ground doing a lot of things, trying to make change happen. And that's why it's beautiful to be, you know, participating in a day like this where you feel not alone in the struggle and in the journey. So I'm happy to feel that vibe as well. Well, diversity is a strength, and there are many big companies that are very diverse or the most successful ones. Especially in moments of crisis, because you have different people with different mindsets, different culture that have a different view on how to solve problems. And that's actually what football is about, right? When I see back to my own career, and if I take from Ajax, Real Madrid, and AC Milan as 3 examples, the successes that we had were with teams where we had at least 5 different ethnicities within the group, within the first 11, and that was always an extra value. It was, and especially in difficult moments, we had those Brazilians that would then, you know, be laughing and say, you know, that's not a problem, you know, let's just go and have fun and relax. And then you would have the Italians a certain moment where we needed to focus in important moments, and everybody would bring in something of their own culture that would add up and create, you know, value.
And where have we come in the game in terms of diversity, both off and on the pitch, do you think?
Well, I think it's time to act now. I think we've been speaking enough. We need to continue to speak. We need to continue create this movement of change in general. because of course we stand here for women, but there are also other minority groups that have issues, and I think we're all looking for the same thing, which is being included, you know, in what we are trying to do and the environment we're in. So I think there's a long way to go. Unfortunately, the moment in the world at this point is actually crying for unity and our capacity with sport to make change happen, and we need to raise our voices and really get together on these issues and implement projects, implement actions like our president has already done in a very positive way, I have to say.
Okay, we're going to prepare right now to start taking your questions. So I'll just level one more at Karina, but get ready because I'll call on you next. I guess, you know, you're talking about how, you know, you were shy to begin with and football brought you out of yourself. What would you say to maybe even people watching at home or people here in the auditorium who are just starting out a career, you know, women who are just starting out in career in football? What is sort of your single biggest piece of advice that helped you through your career?
I think it just started with the idea of just dreaming big. It sounds so small, but all my heroes were males. It's actually ironic because he was one of mine, so this is kind of cool for me. But growing up, they were all males, and I think it's pretty interesting now. I mean, I retired at the World Cup in 2015, and when I first started my career, there's like 8 people in the stands, and 5 of them were my family and my loud mother. But then I retired in the World Cup, and it's sold out stadiums, and you know, we're household names, and you know, we're able to now travel around the world and people recognize us. So I'd say for the young girls, it doesn't matter what situation you're in, dream big, like dare to dream big, like dare to feel like one day I can play for my country, even though that infrastructure may not be there. But it takes, as we heard earlier, it just takes one person to take that chance. Right. So I'd say, I mean, for me, when I got cut when I was 14 from my first big team I wanted to try out for. And the coach told me I wasn't what I was looking for. And it broke my heart. But I dared to dream big, and I did 15 minutes more every single day. And I remember I went and trained with the boys. And the boys at first, they were like, what are you doing? I said, I want to be a professional one day. Can I train with you? And they were open to it. And I worked 15 minutes more every single day because I dared to dream big. And then a year and a half later, I was playing next to my heroes. So yeah. I'd say just dare to dream big.
I think that's pretty inspirational. But how did you deal with the stereotypes that we've all been talking about? You know, this is not a women's game. That you're a certain type of woman if you play the game. How did you deal with that?
Does it look like I listen to what people say? No, I think again, you have to dare to have your own dreams and own it. You know, my career's not been easy at all. Like I could sit here and tell you moments where most people are turned around and walked away, but I think some of it is surrounding yourself with the right people, but it comes down to just like, I had a crazy dream of playing in a Olympic Games and a World Cup, and in the beginning there was no Olympic Games for women's soccer, but I don't know, I did dare to dream big, and I think you gotta have something to go after and be vision clear and focused on it, and I think this is what is happening here today, is that there's enough people in the corners of women's soccer to push us, and it may be, you may be from different regions of the world, where in North America, obviously we have a professional league, and you know, we host World Cups, so it's easier for us, but it's important for us to keep pushing the envelope so that in other parts of the world, they can maybe turn on that television and be like, okay, maybe one day.
I'd love to sit here and continue asking you both questions, but I'm going to give an opportunity to all of you. So just raise your hand if you have a question for either Clarence or Karina, and please do stand as well if you have a question. Oh, wow. Okay, that's more like it. Hala, do you want to go first? All right, we'll switch on the microphone and then you'll go.
We can just dance.
She'll dance if you don't switch on the microphone. Right here. Thanks.
Hello, Ousta from the Scottish Football Association, and I guess it's a question for both of you. What do you see the role of member associations in driving forward diversity and inclusion?
Well, I think in all the things we've heard the whole morning, it's obvious that the leadership role of FIFA and all the federations is very obvious. We're speaking a lot for years. I think things have been discussed, awareness has been created within the organizations, and now it's time to act. And what I just said, I think that with our president has within a year put some great actions to show the way where it's going and where it should go. And I hope the other federations will follow with concrete actions. And what I hope is that FIFA will keep on pushing hard for all the federations, all the confederations to really step up and follow this movement and follow this change. And the accountability that I've heard about from Joyce before is fundamental. I think that has been missing and is missing in many places and also outside of football. Again, we should not make that football is going to solve all the problems of society, right? But I think we have a strength within this sport that can really make things change, and therefore we can lead by example. And I think there are great examples here of what the new era is all about.
But has FIFA, in the last year, let's say, under the new president, has it enacted, is it action or is it policy?
Well, there's one action, and we have, and I think that will then reflect, I think, in policies. It will reflect in real change that is going to be applied. Of course, it's short time. We cannot expect such a big organization to resolve all the issues at once, but what it surely is doing, and we should do more and be pushing hard, and that's what I'm saying, is a communication of what we want and where we want to go, and use that strength of communication internally and externally to push everybody in this direction, which is a bit the opposite of what we're seeing in the world at the moment. So let's push really hard together, right? Because it's needed.
Karina,
I just add to that, just the communication. I think from the federations with the players. I know in Canada, for example, over the years of my 18 years, at first it was players versus the association. And then finally we came together and just sat down and had a conversation, and they asked, what do you need? What do you want? And as players, when you feel your voice is heard, you feel more connected. And I think that was part of the growth. And I think for me, I was part of the FIFA Women's Leadership Program, the FLDP, that just happened. And it was the same thing. FIFA asked, and they allowed me in, and it was, what do you want? What do you need? And it's the opportunity for players to feel like their voice is heard, and then people to actually listen and want to help the change. Because I think from, as you heard earlier today, as females, we have opinions. We've been in it. We understand that there's differences, but we're not trying to be against it. We're trying to join in together and be with it so that we can take the game to where we dream it can go.
And then maybe another concrete thing that could be applied is the Rooney Rule. I don't know if everybody knows about it. I will take bits and pieces, but a few years ago, a gentleman from the US, a lawyer that sued the NFL for racism, they were capable of changing big time the prejudice that is at the core of the problems we are speaking about. And it was not so much about giving people, obliging the NFL to have coaches, black coaches, because the problem was about 70% of the players of the NFL are black, and they were represented less than 10% in coaching and managing positions. And they turned that around. I don't know the percentage today, but it's very positive what they did. And they obliged the owners, when they did interviews, job interviews, to, I think out of every 3 potential employer, to have 1 black person also involved in that interview. So their goal was really to cut the prejudice, because looking from a business perspective, if I'm sitting down and I have 3 or 4 options, I will take the one that will, add value to my business most. And after a while, probably looking just from a business perspective, they were looking at who is going to give me what I want for my company, and they changed that big time. And I think they're also very successful. So this is something that I think that this rule could be applied immediately, because we don't want to oblige nobody to employ somebody just because we want to have diversity. We want it to be on merit. We want it to be somebody who is qualified to get the job, but has the same opportunity. But most of all, we're going to change the mindset, because that's, in my opinion, a huge thing they achieved there.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Hala's nodding furiously. I know you're going to speak in the next one, and you're going to tell us what you think. More questions? Thanks.
Hello, my name is Irene. I'm from Ernst & Young, so I'm not football or sports. I'm more from the industry. My question would be to Karina. I quite enjoyed before your career advice. I'd be curious to hear, though, what's one thing you would do differently in your career, sort of one of your lessons learned?
Mm-hmm. What would I do differently in my career?
Before you said before your career advice was to dream big.
Yeah.
So just the opposite. What's something that you didn't do well that you learned from?
Okay. Well, I didn't win a World Cup. Just kidding.
There's still time.
What would I do differently? As an athlete, you're always a perfectionist. So every day you want to be better, or you wish you would have done something differently. What would I have done differently?
Go back and tell sort of the young Karina who's just starting. Just give her a piece of advice.
Well, I think for many years in my career, this is more on the mental side, I just wanted to be the best goalkeeper in the world, right? And it was more of a selfish dream. And then as the game evolved, and especially hosting a home World Cup in your home country, you learn that you have to be connected on something greater than yourself. And for us, we went into like the 2011 World Cup and we came dead last. And you give up everything, you sacrifice, you don't see family, we moved to Rome, we gave up professional contracts, we gave our life to it, and we thought this was it. And we came dead last. And 9 months later, we stepped on the podium at the Olympic Games in London. And the difference was we changed our mindset. We connected on something bigger than ourselves. We connected on everybody goes to the Olympic Games to win a gold medal. What could we go that would be bigger? What could be our legacy? What could be our purpose? And we decided we wanted to inspire a generation. And the difference with that was that was an everyday thing. That wasn't about me. Especially as a goalkeeper, one goalkeeper plays, and Aaron McLeod's a phenomenal goalkeeper. And we decided, what if we had the mindset that every day we'd go and just try to be our best and make the coach make the decision, which was harder. And then we went into the Olympic Games, and again, our mindset was, if we want to inspire a generation, that's everything we do. So that means that, we were talking about this earlier, if somebody comes up to you and you're having the worst day in your life, and you've just done a workout and you're feeling like throwing up, and you look a mess, you turn to them and you give them your best self. And you don't make it about you. And it was the mindset of, okay, we're connected on something bigger than ourselves, and it's about everybody. And it's amazing when you switch that mindset from just you to us. We literally stepped on the podium. I saw my flag rise, and I did the ugly cry on the podium. And that was, and I wish somebody would have said cry gracefully, because there's a life-size poster or something like this. But it's just about, I think I wish earlier in my career I would have been, obviously I want to be the best in the world, but I would have connected to the idea that it wasn't about me, but it was about the impact and change and the legacy that I could have had as an individual.
Thank you. More questions? There's one right at the back there that's standing up.
Hello everyone. My name is Elvina. I am from Russia, from Russian LGBT Sport Federation. And my question is to Clarence. Being a member of Jury Diversity Award, what do you think about exclusion LGBT community from the society, Russian society? What thoughts do you have? And yeah, that's it.
So, did I understand well?
An easy one for you.
I didn't hear well. Yeah.
Do you want to just repeat it again? The question?
What do you think about exclusion LGBT community from the whole Russian society?
Right.
Okay, can you help me to explain?
Well, I mean, I guess it's also to do with the controversy over the World Cup.
For the World Cup,
Yeah. Is that what you're referring to? And what football players like Clarence can do to send a message? Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately I don't play football anymore, so there's going to be a tough job to do something through that. But, well, I wouldn't like to be so specific because I think we have really a lot of things going on. And also the focus of today really is about women's football, right? And if you allow me, I want to talk about the categories, the different things that I've heard until now. And I'm a big advocate for obviously, for equality, gender equality, etc., etc. But there needs to be a focus, and there needs to be a specific goal. I believe that what I've heard until now, there are a lot of things that are a bit all over the place, right? And if we want to make change as a whole, we should have a united goal that will help to achieve something, to achieve more changes quickly. I had a nice conversation before about the gender mix football playing in the youth, which I think is wonderful. But under which category are we putting that? Is that under the professional football development from the youth to the top, or is it more social? And if it's social, we need to outline, in my opinion, even to go into these type of conferences, to really categorize what we're talking about and set some goals, what we want to achieve and the things we would like to see from here to 5 years. And I was missing, that was missing a little bit in what I've heard until the whole morning. All beautiful stories, of course, but if I want to be an advocate for this movement, I need to have an understanding of what that goal is. What is the specific goal that we want to achieve together? So that's my question to think about for all you guys, because if we're going to all fight our own type of struggle, we're not going to get anywhere, because at the end the federation is one, FIFA is one, and if 1,000 different inputs are coming in, questions are coming in, it's going to last just longer. So this is just something I really wanted to share and hope can be some food for thought.
Yeah. We can take another question, and also just to let you know, the next panel will also be discussing discrimination based on sexuality and other things as well.
Hi, Maria Babenreith from Women Win. I want to support my Russian colleague and not let you guys get off so easy on this question, which is fundamentally, I would love to hear from both of you what organizations like FIFA, the role of sport. I know the IOC just signed on the rights and forcing host cities to hold up human rights. As athletes, as people, as human beings, what is your advice to FIFA to help push forward the broader agenda of human rights, which would include women's rights and LGBT rights, and especially in places like the upcoming 2 World Cups? I think it's a difficult question, but I don't think we should skirt the issue.
I agree. It's a difficult question. I have a very strong opinion about it, but you had an opportunity with the president a few hours ago, and that was the moment to ask this question. I think I don't have enough knowledge, specific knowledge, to give my opinion, which then will be, everywhere. We need to be aware that it is a political issue, and football can just do so much. But most of all, we have the leaders. We were here this morning, and this was a great question to ask to them, what they would be doing eventually, because my advice will be private and not public. Unfortunately, things go out, and we all need to respect that, I think, and it's not willing to answer. I think just that we had a great opportunity having both the Secretary General and the President sitting here to answer that question.
Karina, I don't know if you want to take a stab at this, which is what can FIFA do to sort of really try and be more inclusive and diverse, and whether we're talking about the LGBT community, we're talking about women, talking about ethnic minorities. I mean, is it the role of FIFA to take on those sort of issues, or is it national level that should?
I mean, I think when you're a leader, you set the tone, and FIFA is a leader, and they have taken the steps. They are including women with the reforms. They are taking the steps in the right direction. I think on the national level, it's the same thing too. I know in my country, we've taken the steps too. I mean, we market women's soccer differently, and it's paid off. They've taken the steps to listen to us as players. They've taken steps where we have campaigns, and social media is powerful, and they allow us to have voices, and they retweet things like that. So I think it's FIFA, it's the national level too, but I think even as athletes and as players, we have voices, and I mean, that's one of the reasons I'm here, is to use my voice and to say that I think FIFA's doing a great job. I think they're making the right steps. They've invited me here. They've put me in a FIFA leadership committee to learn and grow. And I think it's having the conversation as athletes. We have that platform, whether it's social media in front of a game saying fair play, saying no to racism. We step up and we say these things, and then we back it up by, in conversations with the younger people and conversations in the media. You have a voice, and I think as athletes, we use our voices in the way, some good, some bad. Yeah. But I think it's on everybody. I don't think it's just FIFA or the association. It's each of us as individuals. I mean, whether you have 5 followers or 20 million, you use your voice in the way you choose and what you're passionate about, and that's how you spread the word, and that's how change happens.
So I usually give the last word to the panelists, but I wonder if anyone else from the audience has even any comments to Clarence and Karina when it comes to what their role should be. What you think their role should be, given that they're celebrities and they have this voice. Go ahead.
Sorry that hello? My name is Federico Adicchi. I'm head of sustainability and diversity at FIFA. And perhaps to jump a little bit into the question from Maria, which I think is a little bit unfair to ask to both of them because they are not part of the organization, but to respond with regards to FIFA's responsibility in connection with human rights. We do not like when there is some sort of competition between FIFA, IOC, UEFA, and so on. But I think that, given that you mentioned the IOC and this important step that they have taken, it's important for me to mention to you that FIFA has already adopted, in an article of its statutes already a year ago, a protection and the promotion of human rights as part of its own constitution. Another step in the same direction was the commissioning of an analysis of the FIFA's human rights policies by Professor Ruggie, which is the eminence behind the creation of the UN Guiding Principles on Business and Human Rights. Following that, FIFA has decided to review its own bidding process, and of course, because our bidding process is going to be only released with the next cycle of World Cups for 2026, but I can assure you, because we've been involved in that and has been a broad consultation process, that all the requirements included in that bidding process go far beyond what you have just read in the IOC host-sitting agreements, and so on and so forth. There's a policy that is coming out, there's a strong stakeholder engagement process, there's an advisory board that has come on board, so the leadership that it was mentioned before and is expected from FIFA, I can assure you that also in the protection of human rights, we are taking very seriously that leadership position and doing as much as we can, heading, I would say, this promotion of human rights in the world of sports.
Hey, thank you for that. Can we get the microphone down here as well? You seem to always get the final word, Lakshmi.
No, I would like to thank them both for being champions of this agenda. And since you asked this question as to what we would, I mean, all of us, but certainly as UN Women, what I would like to recommend and very much like to welcome their advocacy on is, of course, the 3 campaigns that I mentioned, the Planet 50-50 by 2030, that can be for both men and women players and role models, but it can, and coaches. It can also, but he for she, by you, because men role models are very important, like they have done in the case of Valencia. Also unite to end violence against women. I think, again, both can do that. I would also say that in the context of the Sustainable Development Goals, it would be great if you can talk about Goal 5. Because in the Olympics, Rio Olympics, we did very much talk about SDG 5. And it's also goal, as in, the analogy is very easy. And it's very comprehensive because it's about ending violence, ending harmful practices. It's about universal access to sexual and reproductive health and reproductive rights. It's about leadership and participation, equal leadership and participation in economic, political, and public life. It's about valuing unpaid care and provisioning unpaid care and domestic work, which is very important, as was pointed out by one of the presenters. One of the reasons that women athletes can't continue beyond a point or are not valued enough is when they have the maternity penalty, as you say. So these are some of the things that you could, and of course the whole issue of women's economic empowerment. So if you can champion Goal 5, high 5, this will really be a very, very big win for us. Thank you.
A job there for you, of course.
The economic.
Sure.
Yes. I would like to give some feedback about the economic equality. And I will just talk about men's football. And not so much in the institutions, but we'll talk now about professional football. It's a big mess. There is no market value whatsoever. The salaries are paid with all kinds of criteria. And so I think that don't waste your time in trying to talk about equal payments, because it's a big mess in the men's football as well. Rather focus on creating really your own value, your own market, to grow it and grow with it, like it has happened in tennis, and they are now at a very good stage. I believe it can be done also for women's football. So I just wanted to make sure that there are many, many players that are overpaid, others are underpaid, a lot of politics, a lot of, who knows who. That's how it is today. And so to talk about equal payment will be a really, really wasting time, let's say, journey. So this is just feedback, so we don't, because yesterday we had already a bit of this conversation going on, and maybe the perception is different, but this is what the real deal is.
I feel like you've opened a door here that we could really continue down, but we do have to move on. So let me just thank you, Clarence and Karina.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, guys. Thank you very much. I'm going to launch straight into the third panel because we are running out of time, and it is our final panel. It's called Strength in Diversity, Achieving Inclusion in and through sport. So the key question here that we want to tackle is not just how to include women from different backgrounds in sports, but also we're talking about wider diversity issues, those with disabilities, minorities, LGBT communities, all the sort of issues that I can feel that you all want to discuss, and we haven't done so. So let me just introduce our panelists, if you can come and sit by me as I call your name. Abhijeet Barse is the Chief Executive Director of Slum Soccer, a truly inspiring organization that runs football programs for the most disadvantaged members of Indian society. It began with football leagues for the homeless and slum dwellers, many of whom were involved in crime, violence, or drugs. Dr. Vladimir Borkovic is the co-founder, COO, and network director for streetfootballworld. Simply put, this organization tries to unite global communities and people from around the world using football. Their mantra is that football has the power to bring people together and instill in them a sense of community and companionship. Thomas Hitzlsperger is the former captain of the Germans men's national team. And I know that you're all very familiar with Thomas's excellent achievements at club level, so I'm not going to, and national level, of course. So I won't, run through his CV because you know it all. But one of his notable achievements is his unwavering commitment to fighting racism and political extremism, coming out as a homosexual in early 2014 and speaking so openly about homophobia in the game has broken taboos and no doubt provided inspiration for millions of others. And Hala Ousta is the diversity and inclusion manager for the Scottish Football Association and a known advocate for equality, diversity in sport. She sits on the board of Women in Football, Sports Scotland, Icon Awards. I can go on and on, Hala, so I'm going to stop, but she wears many different hats. Unfortunately, Raha Moharrak, who we were expecting to be on this panel, had some passport issues, but luckily we have a very distinguished panel, so welcome to all you. So actually, Vladimir, I want to start with you because you have an especially positive message about the role that football can play in uniting people. So tell us a bit more about your project, your organization, and how you can make football more accessible to people.
Thanks, and many thanks to all of you for coming today. I thought that we already were told everything, but I hope that the four of us, including the moderator, will be able to inspire you even more. Obviously, Street Football World is in existence for the last 15 years, so we started in 2002, and I'm happy to see many familiar faces of our network members, including Abhijeet and Slum Soccer. We unite 120 organizations worldwide in 78 countries, and these organizations on the local level empower 2 million young people every day. And that's maybe something that I would like to start with, appreciating strongly the role of FIFA in the development of football and the development of the society, by stating that also beyond the associated football system, there is a huge playground. And this playground is amplified by local actors who are not affiliated to official football structures. And that's something that I believe we need to recognize also in this topic that we are addressing today. There are many motivated, energetic men and women who start local programs and are not affiliated to the football structure in their respective community, region, or country. And that is a huge driving force for the socialization of young people, for diversity and social inclusion on the local level. This is something, and maybe this is a quote that you may use, that there is football also beyond FIFA. Not to diminish the role of FIFA, but to increase the importance of football, and us, all of us, being part of this big football community, should be held responsible for everything that is happening. It's not FIFA only, it is FIFA plus, and we are part of this joint path to make this world a better one.
Thank you. And Abhijeet, very similarly, you have a role as well in sort of using football to bring communities together. And you do it in a very specific and interesting context, which is in India, where there are so many issues to do with housing, poverty, water, sanitation, so on. Why did you choose football, and what are you hoping to achieve? Tell us a little bit about the organization as well.
So as a nation that's yet developing in terms of both economically as well as football-wise, we are at a verge where we were looking for answers. And sports became, or rather football became, one of the most easiest go-to place because of its apparent benefit. It brings people together. And when you're together, you are better at finding solutions. So for us, more than football as a game, it became a tool where we started bringing youngsters together. And these youngsters were coming from quite challenging backgrounds. Children who are dropping out of schools because they lack motivation, or youngsters who are being involved in antisocial or rather illegal activities because they don't have an outlet to their energies, were brought to the table because of this unique power of sports. I think nothing else succeeds as much as a game of football does. And for us, we have been using this as a real-life school. So if I were to talk with a boy from a slum, I think he would understand me better if I spoke in a language that he understood. And in a sense, football became that language. So no matter how many challenges you're facing, you need to create a platform where you can have a dialogue. And sports, yes, football, especially football, brings people together.
And what kind of impact are you trying to make through bringing people together to play sports like football? What's the aim?
I think football-wise, we still have a long way to go. So I'm not going to talk about that. But you know, when you play as a team, there are apparent benefits. When you are part of a team, it is easier to agree or rather disagree on issues. And this starts, for us, it has always been a platform where we disseminate messages. So if I want to talk about health-related issues, I would, and we have specifically designed games that talk about these issues. One example is where we are using football to teach mathematics to girls, especially girls, in a community where they were not allowed to play. And now adding these two elements together, like using using football to teach, we are able to hit two targets in one. A, they are allowed to come out and play because we are telling their parents, their teachers that, you know what, if your girl can come out and play, she will be also understanding some concepts which she doesn't necessarily.
How do you use it? How do you use football for maths?
So I haven't, but my team has come up with some very unique and interesting games. It is designed for class 5 as of now. But you use football and surrounding equipments to create, numbers and placards and objects that are kept in certain way. Like if I were to talk about counting numbers, you will just create those
right.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. Thank you. So that's, I guess, the good side of football, the beautiful game, right? And Thomas, I want to turn to you because you're the one that has really lived this amongst us here on the panel, as someone who's reached such heights in your career. Tell us a bit more about your experience, especially your decision, and why you made that decision to come out, and the timing of it.
Well, obviously. In a long time, it took me quite a long time to then come out, but I had the joy of playing football at the highest level. And when I look back, I wouldn't make anything different. But when I actually admitted to myself that I'm gay, a lot of questions ran through my head, and I thought, well, okay, there's no gay role models in professional football. Okay, so am I the only one? Do I have to come out? How is it going to affect my life? How do people react? And it took some time. It took many conversations with my closest friends, my family, and although it's not related to football now, but I have to mention this. There's a project called It Gets Better, and that was really inspiring. When I read about it, I thought, this sounds interesting. I went online. I know a lot of people nowadays complain about the internet and all of that, but I must say that was really, really helpful. So I was, going on this website, and a lot of individuals, they uploaded a video with their own story, and the message was always, it gets better. And people were under really difficult circumstances, and that has really encouraged me. And I thought, if these people managed to come out under these circumstances, why can't I? And as I said, it was a process, but that really helped me and say, okay, if no one else does it, I have the confidence now, it's time to do it. Yes, I did it after my professional career, but I still think, the time was right. I was confident enough, and now I'm here to learn and hopefully spread the word and help others to do the same, or at least be more comfortable.
Right. But how does it feel when you sort of hear and see us all talking about inclusion and how football can help with and it's sort of open to diversity and so on? When you've actually sort of been there and felt it and been on the sort of the end of it, the end of the stick where it wasn't so easy.
Well, it's true, but I thought football has always been pretty diverse. When I started playing as a professional, the dressing room was pretty diverse. And it was only guys, but other than that, different ethnic backgrounds, age difference was usually you had some 35-year-olds, 18-year-olds, people from all over the world. So that's quite diverse. But being gay in football was never an issue. Yeah. I would sometimes read about it. I read about former players saying, or managers saying, no, I would not advise a player to come out. So if there's no role model, then what are you going to do? And you kind of you have a little bit of fear, and you see the dark side of it. And that's why I needed people to encourage me. My family helped me, as I said. And then in the end, it's just like, I got to do it. If I don't do it now, no one else is going to do it. And that really helped me. And fortunately now I can sit here at FIFA for the first time. Yeah. And I don't think I would be sitting here if I hadn't done it.
Yeah, amazing. I'm wondering, in the last few years since you made that decision, how it's been, and have you seen others sort of follow suit?
Life's been great. Life's been really, really good. I still enjoy playing football. I mean, not in the big stadiums, but I work for a football club now. I work in media, because that was another fear. Say, people who criticized me for not coming out while I was playing, say, it's impossible to work as a gay man in professional football. Okay, a year later, I started working in media. You might say, well, there's a lot of gay people in media, but nevertheless, somebody said, okay, you're good enough to work for us. I worked for Fox Sports in the US. Some people might think they're very conservative, but they said, okay, we take him on because he's good enough. And now I work for my former club in Stuttgart. And never, ever have I heard the question, can we really take him on because he's gay? No, they looked at me and they said, he's good enough. And that was not an issue. And for me, that's progress. We're not at the end there, right? It's still a lot of work to be done. But the fact that I'm back in professional football in a different role shows me that we've made huge steps forward, but I'm there now, and hopefully I can, like I said, inspire younger players if they once face that question, if they want to come out or not, that I can assist them.
What about gay people that are currently in sports, so whether it's football or something else? What's your advice to them?
I mean, I can't sit here and give them advice. It's all very personal. It always depends on how you grow up and the sort of friends you have. And sometimes I think it's a benefit, it's a luxury that if you're gay, you don't have to tell the world that you're gay. It's different if you're black and you belong to a minority and you expose it every day, and people can discriminate you because of the color of your skin. If you're gay, you can say, well, I don't need to tell people. All I can say is, my life is definitely not worse since I've come out. I've had so much joy. I've met amazing people. Some people got in touch with me that I would have never met in my entire life if I wasn't gay, and that has enriched my life tremendously. And I think I'm so happy, and that's why I think it's a good thing. But not everyone should come out because it was good for me. It's very personal, very, very individual, and I hope that everyone has someone to talk to that gives them good advice.
Okay, great messaging there. Hala, I'll switch gears a little bit and talk to you about what it's like to be a woman, and not on the pitch, sort of on the other side of it and off the pitch. You've spoken quite a lot in interviews on TV about the sort of stereotypes that you face, especially from men, white men of a certain age that really didn't think. I think you said at one point they looked at me with amusement when I told them that I'm interested in football. I want to work in football. How have you faced those sort of hurdles in your career, and do you continue to face them?
Yeah, if I can just begin first by asking, can everybody understand my accent? So in terms of from Scotland, I'm no stranger to diversity. Being an ethnic minority female from a Muslim background, we've got with a Syrian Palestinian cultural heritage, an umbrella of different diverse makeup. But again, in Scotland, you're not really identified by all these different characteristics. You're identified by which team you support. So I found out about football very, very early, and that was my tool for inclusion and my process to feel included within Scotland and grow up. So that's where my passion for football started, and it felt like a family. And I felt like I fitted in with the boys more than the girls as well at that aspect, and they were more inclusive, taking me to the games, my dad encouraging me to play football. Not that I was any good. So I ended up working in football. And within our culture, within the Middle Eastern culture, education is the most important thing. So I thought, okay, we'll compromise, we'll do my master's in public policy, postgraduate in equality and discrimination, and fight it another way and get more girls from the same background in the other way. When I graduated, I was very, very lucky. There was an opportunity for the Scottish Football Association, who had just developed the Diversity and Inclusion Project, and that was focusing on ethnic minority participation with football because they identified there was a gap through consultation with the different groups. I thought, perfect, that's it, I'm in. Marriage made in heaven, I get to do equality work, I get to be in football, put on my tracksuit on the field, talking to a room of ethnic minority men about football, and I could hear the sniggers, and I could hear the chuckles, and I thought, okay, it was a real low point in my career, and I thought, am I doing the right thing? Stupid questions, how will you get married? And I had to reassess everything. But again, it's built up that resilience and that determination and that purpose for wanting to change that mindset amongst those communities and get more girls involved. But again, change the mindset within the girls themselves that they're good enough to get involved. And that's where I set up the organisation Inspiring Women Scotland, because I identified that there are ethnic minority girls who are successful, who are very passionate about what they do. But there needs to be those role models that can bring the next generation down. And I think it was the last FIFA conference, somebody had said, remember to send the elevator back down. And that has always stuck with me. So that's something I've aspired to do when coming through, is bring the crowds with me. But again, you've also got the other aspect of it, that the stereotypes. People look at me and they're like, are you sure you're Muslim? And I want to change that stereotype, that image of a woman in a headscarf that can't speak for herself, that isn't powerful, that can't go out and achieve things. And again, Raha, who has climbed Mount Everest, and you have Khalida as well, there are strong women. We don't all need to be sitting in that stereotypical way, and that it's, don't make assumptions. Just ask the question. I think everybody's scared and fearful of being tarred with the brush of being sexist or being racist or being homophobic, as opposed to just, when you ask the question, if the intention is right and the context is right, then everybody's understanding. Everybody wants, let's talk about it. Let's not be scared of those questions. Let's start to speak to each other. And I think that's something we can take away from today. I mean, football is a village. Everybody knows everybody. It's a good network. And I think we can see that in this room today. And I would urge everybody in this room to speak to the person next to them, swap contact details, and make sure a year from now on that you've kept in touch and you can see something that you've changed. And again, it's the whole Mother Teresa. No, you can't change the world, but if everybody does a small part, does their small part, then we can slowly progress things forward and move things forward.
I feel like we often just, we talk about the importance of having female managers and having women in high places in management, especially in football. But we don't often ask the question why. And you, as someone who sits, I think, I'm assuming sort of surrounded by male leaders. Tell us a little bit about why it's important and what difference it makes when there are women in those high positions.
Again, it comes back to diversity, and it's not just women, it's ethnic minority women or Muslim women or LGBT women or disabled women. It comes to those multiple characteristics and the breadth of experience that they can bring, and the difference of opinion, and to enrich and to be representative of their own society, to speak on behalf, not speak on behalf. I think that's quite a dangerous thing, because that's something I'm asked to do quite a lot. So Hala, tell us about the Muslim girls in your community, tell us about the Arab community. And again, there's so many different strands within those characteristics that I don't represent every single Muslim Arab female, but I have the networks to be able to ask those questions. And I think that's a key message, is that we're not here to work on behalf of these women. We're here to work with them. And they need to be involved in the conversations and set the conversations for themselves. And within the Scottish FA, we've realised that we need to have that diversity, whether it's at the youth level with the Youth Ambassadors of Change programme, where we're bringing young people in through the Captains of Change programme to empower them to speak and to have their voice heard. So capacity building is another important thing. But again, it comes back to the men as agents of change. Throughout my life, men have promoted me and helped me through my journey, whether it's from my dad, my previous line manager. It's always, I've been helped by men, so it's not to look at them and say, it's a gender thing, men don't help or women don't help. I've actually had more barriers by women than men, but I think it's always preconceived notions. It's back to assumptions, don't assume that a man or woman is going to help you better than whatever characteristic they're from. It's down to the person, and that's something that we need to look at.
Thomas, do you feel is there a similar way in terms of how your career has gone?
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I don't represent every single gay man, you know, but of course I've got something in common with most of them, and that's why I'm trying to choose the words carefully, you know, of what I'm doing, and as I said, you know, that was my personal, my very own journey. I've come out, and now I'm here to listen. I mean, you know, being grateful that I can find out more about inclusion in women's football. You know, I didn't know much about before today, to be perfectly honest, apart from the fact that the German players are very good, and Nadine Kessler, who I was sitting next to, and I mean, one of the best players we've ever had. But that's what I'm saying, you know, we've got to be patient as well to open doors, and I can't force it on people. So we need change now. Because people are saying, when are we going to have the next or the first active football player who comes out as gay in a major league in Europe? I said, I don't know, but that doesn't mean that we can't continue the work on a lower level or from every level. You know, this is not the end goal to say, okay, once we have one famous footballer who's still playing, who comes out and says, then we've achieved our goal. That's not the case. It would help the cause, of course, but it doesn't stop us from doing the groundwork. And for me, the German FA is very helpful. I keep talking to them on a regular basis. Now we work with a charity who goes to the club teams in German football and tries to educate the players. It's about education, because at the end of the day, what does homosexuality mean? And I think a lot of people have wrong conception about it, that we need to educate them what it really means. In the end, if they understand, then they won't exclude anyone from football.
Right, and it comes down to society, right? Not just, you know,
of
something
course.
to do with football.
And then again, what Clarence said, you know, FIFA is about football. I'm about football. I can't change the whole world, but I can play my role. I'm doing as much as I can, but I don't have the vision to change the world, to change society. But in my part, you know, my little world, I'm doing the best as I can.
Vladimir, what's your impression? You're more let's change the world of the school of thought.
Yeah, my energy is for today and for tomorrow. So let's start changing the world today. But what I would like to emphasize is that there are, from my point of view, there are two values in life. You may agree or disagree. It's love and it's knowledge. So by sharing love and sharing knowledge, we can make this world a better place. What does it mean for the young people that we are working with in the Street Football Network and every particular network member? It means that we give them the space and that we give them the access to opportunities, an equal access to opportunities. And that includes the different categories that we are discussing today. So in that sense, what we, as Street Football World and our network members, the local organizations, strive to do is to change the world through football, but actually using football as a catalyst, as a medium, as a hook, as an opportunity for them to join and then to take part in different activities that will change first their life and then the communities that they are striving to change. Every person changed, every community changed, we hope will also bring the change to the world. And I just would like to quote one of the young ladies that you will invite to the next conference. Her name is Gulaf Shah Ansari, also from India, from an organization called Oscar Foundation. She fought for 10 years to be able to play football, similarly like you, in the Aravi slum in Mumbai. And her two sisters were early married to strangers. She finished university through the program of the Oscar Foundation. And one quote that I would like to share with you is that she said, "I don't mind if young girls want to get married as long as they get the chance to experience football just once."
And Abhijeet, I'm curious to know what your experience has been like in that sort of still talking about the idea of stereotyping, especially when it comes to young girls that come and want to play football. Are they accepted? Are their parents accepting of that? And if they're not, what can you do? What is your role?
So we've tried approaching it directly a couple of times. And in our earlier experiments, we failed. But then we realized that maybe we are approaching it wrongly, so we sort of changed. So first comes the dialogue, where we make sure that our leaders, our community workers, are actually talking to the parents and telling them what this is about. So this is not just some sports or physical activity you are taking part in, but rather a part of something bigger, a bigger learning experience that you will get. Of course, it is time consuming, especially when you want to change stuff immediately. But we found that most sustainable programs that we have almost every time start with a very slow approach, very thought out strategy of how we would work with. So if you are going to work with a slum which is dominated by Muslims, we would first talk to the boys, get them on board. This has been highly successful as well, because they are the ones who stop the girls from playing most of the time. It's not the parents, it's the brothers. So you talk to them because they are already playing. They understand. Once they give us access, it's easier to build on that.
What do you say to convince them?
Well, we bring in to one of our sessions where we have activities that are already going on which are talking about gender issues or other equality. It doesn't work always, but most of the time it at least gets them to understand enough to give us initial access. And once they start seeing how beneficial it is, usually it works. And then you work through the community. So it's not just the girl you want to approach when you're working for a program. It's her parents, it's her school teachers. It is people around the community who would sit on the periphery of the ground and passing comments you want to work with.
Yeah. And how does that change other things? So you've changed their minds about football. And how does it have an impact on other things in society?
Well, I have one very nice example. So one of the communities that we worked with, again, this was this common community place where there would be marriages happening in the evening, and in the morning the girls would play there. And before we started working there, it was a community ground, so it would be messed up. There would be pigs, cows, buffaloes staying all there. Once the girls started to play, I think for 2 days my coaches cleaned the place. The third day we had community members, older ones, who were coming and sweeping before the girls came in. Now, I don't know how this happened, but I'm only assuming that it was because they wanted their girls to play in a safe space. And now they've installed garbage bins at the side of the ground where they dispose of the stuff before the girls come on.
It's a great story. I'll open it up to all of you now if you have some questions, especially for Thomas, who has to leave us to catch a flight in half an hour. So yes, if you have any burning questions for Thomas, please start with those. We'll start right here, the journalist in the room. Second row. Straight. Thanks. Oh, where's it going? Where's it going? Can we have one here, Kaylee? Thanks.
Thank you. Thomas, I was fascinated to hear your story since you retired. And I wondered what your assessment was of the situation for LGBT people in Russia, especially with the World Cup coming up. What needs to change? Does FIFA have leverage? What should FIFA do?
Well,
easy questions.
I was just going to say, they're tough questions.
These journalists, I don't know.
Yeah, we're quite late in now. I mean, the Confederations Cup takes place this summer, and the year after the World Cup. So, I mean, this is not easy, like I said earlier. I'm trying to talk to the German FA as much as I can, and finding sort of a way to address this, to speak with one voice. I see myself still as part of the German FA because I've played for them. And because it's so political, I don't want to go forward and say, this is what we have to do, because I haven't spent much time in Russia. I don't know what the circumstances is. I read in the newspapers, I watch television, and I get a feeling of what's going to happen. But I don't want to judge right now. All I can say is that here at FIFA, of course, we've got to stick together. Change has been made a little bit already, which is good, but I don't have the answer. Hopefully, I can go in the summer and next summer and convince myself what is going on. Hopefully, it's much better than we anticipate. But go out there, speak to people directly. We've heard the woman up there who represents Russia and the LGBT community. And I think it's always best to talk to them and say, what is it that FIFA can do? Not what I can do from Germany, but what can FIFA do? Talk to the people in Russia. That's, I think, probably the best way of how to approach it. And I think that's going to happen.
Thank you. Next question? To your right, left, Clarence.
Yeah.
Could you stand up? I'm so sorry. The director will tell me off.
Let me clean myself up because I messed up here. What kind of...
Introduce yourself, please.
Yes.
Okay, I'm Clarence Seedorf, and I'm really happy to see you again, by the way.
Likewise.
I've always wondered, is it really necessary that you guys come and speak out of your preferences? Because I don't see hetero people doing the same thing. Why should it be something that somebody should come out and say?
Yeah, I think it's very important because football players are role models, and a lot of people have issues with their own sexuality. And I think because footballers are role models, if they speak up, they make a change. And every time I read about a football player cheating on his wife, sorry, it does happen, they talk about their sexuality. Every time I go into the office, I see my colleague having a picture with his husband or partner, and they're in a straight relationship, I immediately find out that they're straight. And I think, why can straight people tell me they're straight and I should not talk about my sexuality? I know it's on a bigger stage, they're coming out, the media is on it. The media shows a lot of interest. I didn't know how big it would be, but the media decided it is big news. It wasn't me that said it's big news. I talked about it, and suddenly they thought, well, that's big news. You're kind of one of very few football players. And of course, people say it shouldn't be an issue. I wish it wasn't an issue, but unfortunately it is. And as long as it is an issue, people need to stand up and say they are gay and encourage others. And hopefully one day it will not be such a big issue. And that's why we do it, not to annoy you, because I understand that some say, okay, it's your own business. But there are so many people out there who still don't understand that it's not easy growing up as a gay kid and not being able to talk to your family. And that's why I think we still need to talk about it.
I have a lot of gay friends, so it's not that I'm annoyed. So don't understand me wrong. Really, I think it's a very respectful thing. It's the first time in any conference that I've met that the explanation was this one. It's the first time. Every time they talk about we want to have the same, we want to do this, you're talking about a bigger picture. And I wish really that others would embrace the same type of explanation, which would change completely also the perception from who's receiving the information. So compliments, really.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Next question. At the back. Thanks, and please do stand up.
Hello, and thank you. I'm Philip. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here. I've got actually a question for everyone here in the room. And that would be, how do you all feel about the fact that TV rights nowadays are being more important to the clubs, the federation, and the entity than actual fan engagement?
I mean, we can't ask the whole auditorium. I'm guessing they...
Yeah, I guess if the panel answers this.
I'm guessing it will be a similar reaction, though. I don't know if anyone in the panel wants to talk about that.
Who's the journalists?
Kane. Do you want to answer that? Can we have a microphone here? We're going to have some audience participation. You've been nominated. You have to stand up.
Yeah, sorry. Money talks, right? And when you are looking at the experience of, say, the English game, where the TV, the broadcast rights are going up practically exponentially, it inevitably relegates the importance of the stadium experience. Gate receipts do not count for what they once used to, and it's a commercial world. So I'm not entirely sure you can. Who do you put the whose door does that responsibility lie at? And every time rights are auctioned, journalists like me, quite rightly, then look at the spend that ends up in the grassroots. And we also look at the role of agents. And I mean, Clarence mentioned earlier, the financing of wages in men's football is crazy. And there is very little fairness to it. So really you're talking about trying to break a cycle and injecting some sense of social equality into it rather than bald market forces. So I don't have an answer for you, my friend. Sorry. Does that help?
Here's a woman to the rescue to answer the question.
It's a team act. So I just wanted to say that I'm a marketer by background, and I do quite a bit of work with fan engagement, and it strikes me that there is actually an opportunity in exactly what we're talking here in our tag team, which is that if the match day revenue becomes less important compared to the broadcast revenue, then that in some ways allows clubs to have the opportunity, obviously at the top level where that is the case, because it's not the same in all leagues in all countries, but where they are now more reliant on broadcast revenue, they can, for example, we've seen some clubs who've kept their ticket prices down or lowered them or reinvested more in types of fan engagement activity because they are not now so reliant on that income. So we could actually say this is not always entirely a bad thing, but maybe it allows some clubs the flexibility to reinvest more in the fan experience and not be so reliant on putting ticket prices up.
Thank you. Anyone else? Questions, comments? Let's go to the right side. Thanks.
Hi, Thomas, mainly. In the UK, in the last 2 years, there's been a growth of LGBT fan groups. There are now 24, and 2 more in the pipeline. Many of those groups have banners in their home stadiums, so at the King Power, at the Etihad, at the Emirates. What would it be like as a player, if you were a gay player, to see a banner with a rainbow on and your club's insignia in the stand?
Well, it's encouraging, of course, and as you just described, it's changing. There's more fan clubs. You described what it's like in England and Germany. It's no different, and that's a good sign. But when you're a player and you go out there, you want to win a football match. This is what you focus on. This is stuff you think about after a game or in the time between games. But to know that your own fans, you have at least one fan club, LGBT fan club, who may talk to the club, may talk to the other fan clubs, and make life a little bit easier for those in the stadium, because we talk about the players, but there's only 11 players on the pitch, but there is in a home game, 40, 50,000, and you want to make life for them comfortable as well if you are part of the LGBT community. So it always helps. As a player, it would be great, but since I have not played and was an out player, I can't really answer that question, but keep doing what you're doing the right thing, and try to encourage more people and have more fan clubs, because it's only to the better for football.
Go ahead.
Hi, my name is, well, similar Scottish accent, but not that strong. My name is Nicole Sayers. I'm from Street Soccer Scotland. So we are kind of a similar project to Slum Soccer, but in Scotland. And something that kind of stood out to me earlier that was said was by Martin, actually, and it was that you can get daunted by the size of the problem and that we need to continue on with the individual projects. And I suppose my question's for Abhijeet and Vladimir, probably, to say, what can we do? What would be strong advice that you think we could do to Abhijeet and Vladimir, to you, as everybody as a whole, as the individual projects can do to continue to help, or, to kind of overcome challenges that we are all facing kind of as a team?
Thank you.
Yeah. So networks like streetfootballworld are building capacity of organizations by giving them trainings and actually visiting sites and interacting with the staff and players. That's one of the strong points of being part of a big sort of family. We, as an organization, have also benefited a lot from FIFA indirectly, again, through Street Football World, by being part of the Football for Hope funding for past almost 8 years now. And that also allows us to build on what we have. We also take part in Football for Hope forums where we connect with like-minded organizations. So you don't feel like you're working alone.
Yeah. Thanks, Abhijeet. And on top of that, we do have an annual survey where we ask our members, what do you really need? And as you can imagine, first of all, they need funding. But not funding that will go into their dreams, but funding that will go into the reality of the communities. And what we believe in is that they know best locally what to do. And that's why we ask all the funders that we collaborate with to invest into these local programs. Secondly, these organizations need, as Abhijeet mentioned, safe places to play. So one of the projects is also FIFA invested heavily after the South Africa World Cup, was the project called 20 Centers for 2010, where Football for Hope centers were built across Africa in 16 countries, where young people come, play, learn also about their health status, and change their own lives. And in addition, what we do, and that's what we're doing also with you today, we are raising awareness that these initiatives exist, that they change lives every day, and that they need our support. And just re-quoting, if we all try to give our maximum every day, we will make a bit of a change. And that's what we are encouraging every child in the program of the network members, and that's what we are encouraging ourselves to do, to give our maximum, sharing the values, as I mentioned, of love and knowledge.
Thank you. I think there was a question right there in the center. Can we give a microphone?
Benjamin from the Swiss FA. So again to Thomas, thank you very much for your engagement, and from an association perspective, what would you expect, what kind of support, or from the other way around, like as a player, what do you expect, how maybe your team manager or the association as itself should support people to feel more comfortable, or is it a place where you say, no, here we talk about football, we want to win the game and not talking about anything else? So.
Well, that's the most important thing. But of course, football players have a lot of time off, and so there's a lot of time to talk about other things. And like I said, private life does matter. That's why I think it's important that the clubs give players an opportunity, to let the players know, if you're different, it's not a problem. You're part of this team. You're here because you're a very good football player. If there's any issues, you can talk to us. Give them people at the club they can talk to anonymously, maybe, who they can trust. And now I know there's sports psychologists, and I guess there's players who sort of doubt that, you know, a psychologist is neutral. You might go to the manager if there's a problem you talk about, but find a way where players can go, maybe as one person or somewhere they can talk to in confidence if there's any issues. But it starts with the manager, of course, even higher up in a club. What do you want to be as a club? What do you stand for? And if that's a clear message, you know, everyone's welcome here at the club. We want all different kinds of fans who love the club, and the players we want here want good football players, and we share values. And if that message is clear, I think that's a strong message to the players, and that's a good starting point. But the rest is very individual. Players need good agents, you know. It's also a message to the agents. Say, if you have a player who has an issue, if he says he's gay, hopefully the player supports that, the agent supports the player. So everyone's involved in football has a role to play, but the clubs, first and foremost, they should send out that strong message. You're here because you're good players, and if there's any issues, you're welcome, and we deal with it. And that's what I think should be the case.
And what was your biggest fear when you were thinking about coming out, and you didn't while you were still playing? Was that a career decision, or was it about your fellow football players in the locker room, or was it fear of the media and how they would respond? What was sort of going through your mind?
I wouldn't call it so much a fear, and the problem was that it collided with the injuries that I had. So towards the end of my career, the last 2 years, I had a lot of injuries, and then that was a time when I admitted to myself that I'm gay. And like I said, so much is going through your head, and you think, well, should I deal about my private life now? But no, I want to still be a football player, and I have to take care of my body first. I want to get fit again. I don't want to end up, you know, with a physio all the time and needing treatment. So that was more important to me than dealing with the coming out process. It went hand in hand, but unfortunately, it took a little bit longer, and it did after my career. But fear, there wasn't a fear as soon as I realized the people around me support me. They like me as a human being, they like me as Thomas Hitzlsperger, and they don't like me because I'm a professional football player, and once I retire, they leave me. There are people like that, but they're not the friends.
Right.
But the majority of people have always supported me, and that was important, and that's why I thought, well, I don't really fear much. I just thought, well, how big is it going to be? Is it going to be just local, or maybe worldwide? I don't know.
And it was worldwide.
It was pretty big, yeah.
Thank you. Who else? Should we go there, and then we'll come to you?
Hello, my name is Raluca Negulescu, and usually I wear many hats, but I want to talk from the perspective of a member of the network streetfootballworld. Last year we received support through Football for Hope program, and we started the first ever Roma girls football team in a ghetto in Bucharest. Yes, we have in the European Union ghettos and very poor areas, especially in that part of Europe. And we've just finished our monitoring and evaluation reports, and the results are astonishing. I don't need you to give you more incentives why we should invest in girls who are very vulnerable, who are from different ethnic backgrounds. But what I'm going to say, it's very important because it's extremely encouraging. Compared to the boys, the girls went through an accelerated process of improvement on all indicators, from school motivation to self-esteem, confidence, and it's amazing. And we continue this process. Of course, 1 year is not enough, but I think this is one of the reasons why we should invest in poor girls. We should use football as a platform for development and empowerment. And yeah, this is what I wanted to share with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh,
Maybe
sorry, go ahead.
Just a short replica. Thank you for the statement and for letting us know how well it works. And maybe just an encouragement also to our colleagues and friends from FIFA to monitor really precisely, not only the Football for Hope program support that is going to more than 130 organizations every year, but also the support that is going to the member associations. Because I'm not familiar with it. I do believe that there should be an equal investment into girls and boys in the countries, be it football-wise or in their social development. And that's something that I hope FIFA will stand behind. Because if we are talking about a 50-50 model for the world, like the UN is also talking about, why don't we talk about that also in football? Not only in terms of, yes, we want to have an equal number of boys and girls playing, but we want to have the same opportunities for all of them. And the impact is then, as we can see, strong. And it's strong for both gender, and it's a mutual impact that will just be reinforced if there is an impact monitoring behind. That's something that I hope that the new administration at FIFA, including you, Joyce, will take care of, because the belief of the communities that you are supporting and that you could support is that the reforms are not cosmetics. They should be touching the grassroots, and touching the grassroots means equal investment into boys and girls, into women and men.
Go ahead.
Thank you. My question is for Abhijeet and for Vladimir, please. Presumably there's some curriculum design as you go out in your communities, and I love what you've been talking about, Abhijeet, in your community. Presumably there is also this design for your coaching staff or your volunteers. Are you convinced that they know how to measure as effectively as the colleague who just spoke, and capture the story necessary for dissemination back to FIFA and for further funding, number one. Number two, is there a way in your curriculum design, in the way you set culture on a brand new team, or teach coaches and volunteers how to establish culture on the team to make inclusion for LGBT issues, for race issues, for issues of ageism, whatever is the ism? Do you teach it? Do you have a standard? And finally, do you touch on social media? And do you have a co-creation that protects children, that protects women, and that also teaches them how to communicate their story and your story for further funding?
Yeah, it's an essay that I need to respond to, but thank you very much. It's essential what you're asking. Just to I don't want to ask you back, but you in one person couldn't do that as well. So what we count on are experts from different fields. There are a lot of pro bono support that we receive from lawyers, from auditors, from social media experts, from communication experts. So this is a very reliable and strong source for the local organizations. Indeed, as some of my colleagues mentioned, we offer capacity building workshops and capacity development workshops for organizations that are in need, be it for social media, be it for financial controlling, be it for impact measurement. There is a movement started in 2005 with the International Year of Sport for Development and Peace that is increasingly investing into monitoring and evaluation. So there is also this spark also coming from FIFA that if you are supported through a program, you have to finance through that program also a monitoring and evaluation component. Like this, we are enabling local organizations to measure their impact. Like this, we are then creating stories that can be communicated, be it in a local community, be it via social media, and then also worldwide. It's a long way to go, but there is a full consciousness about the need to invest. There is a full consciousness about the necessity to evaluate the impact, and also about the benefits of the dissemination of these results. Maybe on the local level.
Yeah, I was just so we do depend a lot on partners who chip in when it comes to, because we on our own cannot do all that you said. But at the same time, as a growing organization, we continuously, as we work with different partners, develop our own expertise as well. Like now we are working with UNICEF, who has a very strong model of monitoring. So that sort of rubs on our projects, and our team becomes better and better every time. The second point that you said, that we try and educate a lot of our coaches on issues such as child protection, on issues such as gender awareness. This, however, doesn't go too farther. We do try and educate as much as possible, but there's, given the level that we are working with, and most of our participants, or rather most of our staff, are those very participants who were earlier, our players. So they do inherit a strong culture from the organization about issues such as gender and sexuality. So we try to build it as a culture within the organization, and because we are taking our own participant, it hasn't sort of like been institutionalized yet, but it's an under culture that we have.
Yeah, and just maybe to add, and that's something also for the world of football, hopefully to learn from. Every organization that joins the network needs to have a child protection policy in place. We look at criteria and sometimes monitor organizations for 2 years before we propose them for network membership. So we're looking at criteria that are non-discriminatory and really try to experience it en vivo in the field or through references and peer-to-peer learning. So it's a long process, and with this we would like to establish criteria that are then also implemented on other levels, be it of the society or football itself.
Thanks. Any other questions? There's one at the back there, and then the side.
Hi. So question for Abhijeet. You've done fantastic things with Slum Soccer that's had a big social impact. Have you found that you've been able to translate that into more girls playing in teams and leagues? And have you had support from the Indian FA to do that?
So our girls program started a bit late. I mean, we've been operating since 2002, but our women's program came around 2009, I would say. We've seen a lot of interest being shown by also the communities that we work with. I mean, we are not facing the same challenges that we faced when we began in 2009. But there's also one other issue, which is lack of professional professional engagement that these girls might get. So if I were to train girls to become professional, there's no direct sort of pathway created. We as an organization are now working with almost 600 girls on a regular basis, through the school programs that we are working with, and also directly by working with the communities. We recently concluded our National Inclusion Cup in Mumbai, where 16 teams from all across Indian state participated in this 5 days event. This shows that there are other groups also, because we work with other partners who are a part of Street Football Network, but also those who are not, just smaller groups working in the countryside. So there's definitely something happening out there where girls are coming out to play. And as a country, we are also realizing the power of football to basically build our girls. So that's one thing, but it's still a long way to go. There are many girls teams registered with us, and we are doing the best we can, but there's no sort of pathway from where we can say that this could be good.
We still have time for a few more questions, but we do have to let Thomas go very soon because, unfortunately, because he has a flight to catch. So I guess I'll let you do a segment that I'm going to ask everyone to do at the end. But because you're leaving, you go first. If FIFA could do one thing to encourage diversity, if they could just change one thing, what would that one thing be?
That's a tough one. I think they're on a good way. I'm glad to have learned that change is being made. It's happening. Mm-hmm. Just continue that way. Mm-hmm. The fact that we're here, the fact that the president was here this morning, is quite encouraging. So I hope that he keeps showing up for these events. That I hope that you continue inviting people from different backgrounds, minorities. I know women's football is very important. Inclusion is. So this is a good starting point. Just continue what you're doing. I think you're on the right track. And people, when I say you, but FIFA knows, people are watching. Yeah. People are really having a close eye on what FIFA is doing. Yeah. And under those, watching eyes, just keep doing what you're doing. I think you're on a good journey.
Okay. Okay, great. I mean, that's a very glass half full approach, which I appreciate. Not being a glass half full person myself, so.
No, yeah.
But if we can just give Thomas a round of applause. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All the best. Thank you. Bye-bye.
So we can take a few more questions. I know that there were a few more hands up, and let's go here. Oh, sorry, someone took your place, but you're next. Go ahead.
My name is Edward J. I'm the founder of Accra, Ghana and Swiss Minors. Apart from financial challenges that grassroots organizations face, there are other challenges, particularly those of us working in rural Ghana. We find it very, very difficult to get the girls to play or to train at the time the parents or the mothers in particular needs them to help them in their household duties. Now, my suggestion to the panelists, and probably through the panelists to FIFA, would be in Ghana, for example, for a child to be promoted to the next higher level of education, the person must pass mathematics, English, science, and other subjects. My suggestion is, once FIFA is working all over the world with national football associations, wouldn't it be okay for FIFA to work through the FAs to encourage the government to award points or similar scores like English and mathematics, so that it will be easier for those of us who want to promote girls' sports to be able to convince the women to allow their girls to go to training, because in that case they know that if their girls are doing well in sports, it will promote them or it will help them as well to go to the next level. And that will also ease the pressure on us, because in our areas, there are no insurance if somebody gets injured. Girls must dress properly before they can be on the field. So there are so many other challenges that we face. And therefore, my suggestion is FIFA could work with the FAs so that the FAs would also contact the government, because everybody knows the importance of sports. For example, how sports help us to discipline the children, so that it will make the work, apart from the finances, other things also easier for those of us who are working on the rural areas. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your suggestion. I wish we had someone on FIFA on the panel so that we could get their reaction. I don't know if anyone here wants to try what your impressions are of that suggestion.
Interesting suggestion. Thank you very much. There was a strong movement by the United Nations. The colleague left, maybe she knows more about it, but there was an initiative also to influence governments worldwide to utilize sport as a tool for peace and development. And I hope that this trickled down also to the schools, for example, through the Ministries of Education. It is a long way. I think we have also the attempt in India to influence the school system in terms of utilizing sport as a medium, not as a kind of school exam for development of young people. So in that sense, I think we are at the beginning of a long road, but the suggestion that you're making makes full sense from the perspective of those who are representing the kids of this world.
Thanks. We had a question here.
Hi, I have a question for Hala. You are passionate about football and passionate about inclusion and diversity in education. And I'd like to know, in terms of increasing women's participation in football, women and girls, and also recruiting and retaining women coaches, where are you getting your inspiration to be a leader in Scotland? If you could take a month away from your responsibilities in Scotland, would you go outside of football to learn who's doing it right, who are your models and heroes, and what are the practices that you're taking from that you'd like to import either to Scotland or to football, depending on where you're getting your inspiration from?
So I didn't get to finish the story in terms of after the men started laughing at me and what I did to overcome that. But I started training with 3 girls, built up to 6 girls, built up to 9 girls, and all of a sudden these guys, the same guys who were laughing, came back to me and said, how do we get our daughters involved? How do we get our sisters involved, our aunties, our walking football for mothers, inclusive of everyone? And that's when the culture started to change in terms that they realized that these girls who were getting involved weren't compromising their identity or their religious beliefs. And it was that trust and relationship building with those communities and talking to them, because most of these communities are very, very wary of working with different organizations. There's a culture of tokenism that they're used to tick a box and then left to work again. So it was that building the trust, building the relationships, the credibility, and understanding the background of the girls, the different cultural and religious sensitivities, and also empowering the grassroots clubs to be able to deal with different girls from different backgrounds or boys from different backgrounds, to understand that, again, don't make assumptions, speak to the people, find out what's a problem for them, what might be a barrier for them, and that way, through engagement and conversation, you can help to master that. And after running those sessions with the girls, they are my inspiration because they keep coming back and they realize that they now have a voice and they have the platform to be heard and they're not scared to shout out. And it's basically Karina. Karina's sitting here as the shy girl. Did not see a shy girl, and that's what we're seeing. We need more Karinas, and I'm seeing more Karinas through the power of football, through giving them that the health, the social aspect of it. And again, something we've not touched on is the visible and invisible disabilities, so the mental health aspect of it and how much it's progressing that within Scotland. So they are my inspiration, and to see them now going on to become coaches and to play in the leagues and to say, oh, I'm going to Camp America this year, my parents are quite happy. And again, the educational aspect that because of the sport, their confidence has improved so much that they're doing better academically and they're aspiring to be more and they're empowered to achieve for the higher goals. I think that's a case study that we're more than happy to share with different associations or with different groups around the world.
I was going to ask about, can you replicate that model in other places? I mean, you have a Middle Eastern heritage. Do you see countries in the Middle East being able to follow a similar suit?
It's funny you ask that because the way we're finding it is that girls like myself, second generation migrants or refugees, because their parents have been brought up in the tradition of 20 years ago, they're still in the bubble of the tradition of 20 years ago where football wasn't talked about, sports and girls just didn't mix. Whereas in the Middle Eastern countries, you had the tournament in Jordan, you had the refugee girls playing and coaching within the refugee camps in Zaatari. And now we're looking to them to say that actually, no, we can participate, we can do this, we can be empowered. So it's working the other way around and using the Middle East to empower the girls within the countries in the West, which is a strange.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other questions? Yes, there's one there.
Hi, my name is Geraldine. I have a question for Hala and also maybe for Joyce. Maybe will help to answer my question about the Forward program. So I know that at the moment at the Paralympic Games there is blind football, which is not governed by FIFA. It's governed by the International Federation for Blind Athletes. But I know that it's not because it's not governed by the FIFA that the member associations are not doing anything about disability programs. So I would like to know how do you react when Scottish people would like to develop maybe blind football in Scotland? And I would like to know if the Forward program could help the member association, even if it's not governed by FIFA, to help develop a sport for athletes with a disability.
So from a member associations aspect, we have a disability development officer, and it's quite timely because he's just put together his new strategy and presented it to the newly recruited Equality and Diversity Advisory Board in Scotland as part of the member association. So he's due to launch that in May. So if anybody wants to have a look and check back in to see his plans for the future around disability sport within Scotland, then that's a big aspect. But I know in terms of we're looking at the gender aspect of it, we're looking at in terms of the visible and invisible disability aspect of it. So there is plans, and there's stuff that we already run. Don't know in terms of the media coverage that you've seen, but we're looking to recruit to go to Argentina for the cerebral palsy squad. So if anybody wants to become part of the national squad and drive that forward, we are quite successful in Scotland in terms of raising awareness and including people from the disability aspect.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Joyce.
Just to answer on the Forward programme, the project part of the funding, which is $750,000 per year per member association, includes the possibility to use social responsibility projects and inclusion. So, as I said this morning, please speak to your member associations. And I think it's important all of us remember sustainability. In what we're funding, in what we're doing, in the game changing that we're about, that there is sustainability. And actually, there are quite a few member associations already supporting and engaging disability football. So if that isn't happening, I can't remember where you said you were from. Belgium. Okay, well then speak to your football association for sure, because that funding does allow the member association to invest and to choose to work with NGOs and different disciplines to do that. So and from a personal perspective, I would certainly applaud it.
Good to hear. Anyone else? Any other questions from them? Okay, sure. Your last chance.
Yeah. For Hala. Hala, you were speaking earlier about your career, and there was one little statement that really strikes me as very toxic, that in your career, the obstacles that were put in front of you were mostly by women and not by men. And I'm just wondering, why do you think that is, and what would you say to those women? Because I think people might know that there is a saying, there is a special place in hell for women who don't help other women.
Wow.
Maybe just, I'm wondering for your perspective as somebody under 30.
It comes back to that statement that I've held on for so long of send the elevator back down and empower other women with you. And because I've felt that barrier, I'm even more passionate about it. And it is that we have this opportunity now within the younger generation to make an impact, and everybody's talking about gender equality, making change in women's empowerment, and it's time that if it's strength by numbers, if we all come together and shout the same things together and have the stronger voice, then we can make that impact and we can make that change and we can speed up the process of having the equalities. But I think it's so important that women empower each other and help each other. And if there's an opportunity, or you know somebody or a student who's working, open the door for them, get them up there with you. And again, that's voices of support that you can go along with.
Yeah, and I think that's also translatable to other careers where, women either do or don't support each other. And there's various, in the journalism world, there's various, networks of women in media that very much stick together. That has been, I think, very helpful for younger journalists, female journalists that are coming up. So I think that it's a translatable thing. And I guess it's always surprising when you come across a female boss or you reach out for help and you don't find it there because you expect that sort of camaraderie. But it also goes back to what you need to do, personally to overcome these sort of struggles, even if those around you aren't necessarily being very helpful. I mean, is that what you found? I mean, when you came against that barrier, even from your own gender, from another woman, how did you deal with it and transcend it?
I think it just comes back to the resilience, and I think that's a really important aspect if you want to succeed in any industry, is not just taking no as an answer. And it's honey probably is one of the best examples of not taking no for an answer, and an inspiration to us all that if you believe in something and you're passionate about it and you see that it's the right thing to do, then going ahead and working towards it.
Thank you. And is there any other questions? And it can just be sort of general questions. It doesn't have to be about diversity. I just want to give you your last word before I go on. Okay. Well, I did want to sort of go around to the three of you and ask you the same question that I asked Thomas, which is if FIFA could do one thing, change one thing, in order to encourage more diversity, what would that one thing be? We'll start with you, Hala.
I don't think it's FIFA's responsibility alone. I think it's a collaborative approach that you work with member associations and you're not working on behalf of people, but you're working with them to drive things forward and understanding and listening to what they need in their area of work. And again, equality and diversity is not a rigid process. It's something that's quite dynamic and moving and progressing with the times. And if we can put it within the structures, whether it's through asking funding accountability, what impact will your project make on diversity and inclusion, and getting evidence from that, then it makes it part of everybody's work streams and everybody's work programs, and not just one person banging the door and shouting equality and diversity, but it becomes a holistic that everybody has to take into account to move forward together.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Vladimir? Abhijeet?
Yeah. So as an organization, when you begin, most of the organization begin as in the activist mode, where you want to solve a community problem and you want to all dive in and just approach the issue. When you keep growing, you realize that there are so many problems out there. And as an organization, you make the mistake of trying to do too many things at the same time. And this is sort of what we did early. Just try and do everything. And then we realized that no, our strength lies in doing very focused work. So if I were to go back and change, I would rather do more focused work than to try and solve too many problems.
Yeah, thank you for this. I'm not closing the conference, that will be done soon, but let me try to summarize a bit what I heard and make a recommendation. You mentioned it could be one suggestion to FIFA. If you look at the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals and this high five goal, if you look at the fact that we have only 2 female presidents of the 211 football associations, I would suggest to FIFA to proclaim that in 2030, half of the FA presidents will be women. And like this, my new favorite athlete, we could have a female FIFA president in 2032. We have to build a pool for that, and there is enough time, and I hope also enough willingness to do it. But to lead by example, my last sentence. I mentioned that the world of football is not only FIFA, so it's also street football world. I'm in a position of a leader at Street World for the last 15 years, and in 5 years I will step down, leading by example. So dear ladies, the position and the application process is open.
I feel like I have to ask that question to Clarence, because you've spoken so much about this issue of diversity, and I wonder if you have thoughts, as we approach the end of the conference, about one thing that you think, through your extensive experience in the game, one thing that you would suggest to FIFA in terms of changing in order to be more inclusive, let's say. Here's your microphone.
Yeah, that will be very short. I think that when we care, we get things done. So I think that the most important thing is the leaderships should really care about what the issues are and then act. It's about spirituality, it's about humanity, it's about really wanting to stand for something. And all the talk is good, but at the end we want to win. And I think that everybody's here because we want to see things happen. And that comes with people who care. And for sure, Joyce is a great example. I admire her greatly for years. Has been in football. Even if you don't know it, I've always followed what she was doing. And this is somebody that we can trust will make change happen. And we need more of that. So, because she cares. That's the main thing. Yeah.
Thanks so much. It's actually a fantastic segue into our last speaker, someone who is a lot more into action than just talking. But before that, we have a video. And then we're going to hear from FIFA Secretary General. So let's watch the video.
With football, you can transcend all kinds of barriers, including gender barriers, but also religious and social barriers.
What you saw from today's session was a group of shy girls, but once they got going and they got the confidence, then you could see they were smiling, they was talking, they was enjoying themselves.
One of our biggest ambitions is to have, by 2026, 60 million women being registered as players.
She's gone! And the stadium's gone absolutely mad!
هذا حلمنا كلياتنا كان إن نلعب للأردن.
Through our grassroots program that is also targeting young girls, we want to give them an opportunity to embrace football as a career.
أنا ما صح لي وأنا صغيرة، لما كنت صغيرة ما صح لي ألعب، فحالياً عم بطور حالي في مجال التدريب عشان أسمح للبنات الصغار إنهم يعني أحاول قد ما أقدر إنهم هم يصير عندهم فرص ويحترفوا ويلعبوا كرة.
In countries where women feel discriminated, the only way to change it is to allow young girls to start football at the age of 8. And this is something that we are implementing through Leave the Goal program. We are living in a global world. If you look at the statistic worldwide, when women are in charge, things tend to improve. We are 50% of humanity, we have to be given 50% of the responsibility, and we are ready to take it.
It's a great pleasure to introduce the woman who arguably has the hardest job in football, but does it so well, FIFA's first Secretary General, that's a woman, Fatma Samoura.
Yes, the hardest, but hopefully also the most exciting job. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I can see that despite having been discussing for hours, you are still feeling very enthusiastic and ready to hear the final remarks for this gathering. Equality, inclusivity, and diversity, we all know these are nice words to say. In fact, most of us also know what are the right things to do to foster equality and inclusion. However, it takes a fair amount of courage to actually do them. A courage that not everyone has. I listened carefully this morning to the, let's say, message from Khalida. For having worked and served in your country, especially in the northwestern provinces of Pakistan, in Jalalabad, in Kabul, during the Taliban days, I know what you went through to be so outspoken. And I'm just glad that you are still alive, because not many of you would have survived by confronting a male-dominated society where women have little rights. FIFA, in the contrary, has been going out of its way to try to transform these beautiful worlds of inclusivity and diversity into action, to make a tangible difference, because it would have been easy for us to settle for just a little change. We adapt the text of our status, we employ a woman secretary general, and that's it. Everybody is happy, work done. But we know that the work is barely just starting. We know that whole groups of people have a good reason not to be happy with their place in society. Today we talk a lot about how the presence of women in all levels of football administration has already become one of the FIFA's top priorities. To see this, you must only look as far as our organigram and our commitment. People from 51 different nationalities work at FIFA today, and 42% of them are women. In junior professional and professional level, women are the majority at 60%. In senior level, female representation has risen to 21%, including the 3 members of our management board, myself, Sarah Berryman, and Joyce Cook, both of whom speak to you this morning. Besides the quota of women in the FIFA Council, we have also worked to feature more women in our standing committees. The participation of women is now around 20%. Before our reforms, it was less than 5%. This is a lot. This is big, but this is still first step. We have a great amount of work ahead of us. We talk a lot about how women's football has been rightfully placed as a centerpiece of the game. And let me share with you my own story. A question that kept on coming every single day from my friends, from relatives, from colleagues, from members of the council, from former UN colleagues. What the hell are you doing, Fatma, in FIFA? Weren't you happy with your resident coordinator work with the UN? You were at the highest position and you know the job in and out. And my response has been constantly the same. Because I do believe in the power of football to shape society. Because I want to use what I've learned during my 21 years of experience with the UN to change FIFA and to change the sport that has the biggest global reach, which is football. By 2026, we will have doubled the number of female players in the world. And to achieve that, we have established a dedicated women's football division. These are facts. These are concrete displays of positive change. But this is definitely enough. Each of you should be an advocate for Sarai, for Joyce, for Honey, for Mr. Urs, for Piara, for Khalida. We don't want this forum to be just a one-day show where we take everything we have in our heart out and just live happy. We can only succeed in making this world a more equal world, where both men and women, where both girls and boys have the same right, if you accept to be as loud as those who have been today sitting here and sharing their experience. The world needs to be more equal, but you know, like in any job, you can't just come and say, okay, push away and let me sit on your chair. In Africa, we say the throne is not a bank, where you can just push your neighbor and sit next to him. If you want to really to be the leaders of changes in the world we are living in, you need to fight. And that's why we need more caliphs, many more caliphs. We need more honey for FIFA and outside FIFA. Our message should not be staying in this room. Please, we count on the men and on the women in this room. So that the message that you heard today, that universal chance is something that we should be pioneering, each of us. Social justice should be in our DNA. On a daily basis, we should be fighting for that. Because no society can survive by alienating 50% of its population. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Fatma, and thank you also to all our speakers today for enriching the conversation, to all of you for engaging so much with us. It really made such a huge difference. To a big thanks to Hani Thaljian and her team and everyone who worked behind the scenes to make this happen. Yeah. I think everyone in this room is privileged, and that's why they have access to this room. So it's really up to us to spread the message to those who haven't heard from the panelists and haven't heard this discussion. So you really have responsibility here. You are ambassadors, so please go inspire. Thank you so much.